Hi everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at this 2021 Mazda CX-30 Turbo. The CX-30 is a subcompact SUV. I think of it as an SUV version of the Mazda 3 hatchback. It came out for the 2020 model year, so just last year, and the only change to it for 2021 is the availability of this new turbocharged powertrain. This is the turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that's available in pretty much every other vehicle in Mazda's lineup except for the Miata and the CX-3. It is a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder. It is mated to a 6-speed automatic, and with premium fuel it makes 250 horsepower and 310 pounds-feet of torque. With regular fuel it makes 226 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. So if you feed this thing regular fuel, you lose 24 horsepower versus if you feed it premium fuel, so not that big of a difference. That's compared to the regular 4-cylinder engine in the base CX-30 that makes 186 horsepower and 186 pounds-feet of torque. So that's a pretty significant upgrade in terms of power, and it definitely helps with the performance of this vehicle. I reviewed a regular 4-cylinder CX-30 last year, so if you're interested in a more in-depth overview of the CX-30, take a look at that video. But in this video we'll be focusing primarily on the CX-30's new turbocharged powertrain. Just to bring everybody up to speed though, this is a rather attractive subcompact SUV. This color is called Polymetal Gray. It's a color that Mazda is featuring in a lot of its marketing materials these days. One of the CX-30's hallmarks, I guess, are these really thick plastic fender flares. They grew on me over time. They are quite large though. Around back, design language consistent, again, with the rest of Mazda's lineup. I think these taillights are pretty cool. So on the badges you can see CX-30 all-wheel drive, and then over here you get that turbo badge right beneath the Skyactiv G badge. Here's your window sticker. So 2021 Mazda CX-30 2.5 turbo. Price on this one comes to $35,400. That's relatively steep for a subcompact SUV. But when you compare it to something like, say, the Audi Q3, you're going to save at least $10,000, and this vehicle is going to be packaged even more generously than the Q3. I'll leave it at that. So, as far as the CX-30 goes as an alternative to a European luxury car, pretty compelling price tag there. So we're facing directly into the sun, so I'll do my best here, but infotainment is this screen. It looks modern, but the size of the screen is pretty small. You control it via this dial right here. It's no longer a touch screen, unfortunately. I always like to see redundant touch controls in an infotainment system, but either way, this is relatively intuitive. It's probably one of the better dial-operated systems on the market. Beyond that, premium interior. This one has brown on top of the dashboard. So this is black, this is brown, this is a really nice rubberized material, and then this is probably a vinyl, but it feels close enough to leather. Up top, regular sized sunroof. In the back, you can see not a ton of space. Again, this thing can be thought of as a taller version of the Mazda 3 hatchback. So on that note, again, if you want a more in-depth review of the CX-30's interior and things like that, check out my other video on this vehicle. But for now, let's go for a drive and see how this new turbocharged engine performs. Okay, CX-30 Turbo. Turbocharged engine or not, this thing feels very premium, and of course it has to justify that $35,000 price tag. But I mean, the materials used are all really nice. The design is sharp and clean and still somewhat minimalist, which is nice. Even the steering wheel feels really good. It's a level above a more mainstream subcompact SUV, like, say, the Kia Seltos is the one I can think of right now. So there's 50 miles per hour. I didn't exactly punch it right away because there's a little bit of traffic through here, but you definitely get quicker acceleration out of the turbo. Big surprise. The 6-speed automatic is kind of nice. 25 mpg combined, so this thing isn't at the front of the segment in terms of fuel economy. Many of the CX-30's competitors, many of Mazda's competitors, have moved to continuously variable automatic transmissions in recent years. I don't love those. Mazda has continued to use this regular old 6-speed automatic. 6-speed automatics have given way to 7, 8, 9, 10-speed automatics in recent years. Mazda still uses the 6-speed, so without having all the numbers in my head right away, I assume they take a little bit of a fuel economy penalty. They're probably trying to save on costs, given that they're a smaller automaker. They don't want to develop their own 8-speed automatic, so they've just milked this 6-speed auto for as long as they can. But what I'm getting to is that from a performance standpoint, the 6-speed automatic's kind of nice. There's another hard acceleration from 40 to about a little bit over 50, and yeah, it feels quick. It definitely feels like a 250 horsepower vehicle. I'm assuming they filled this thing up with premium before they dropped it off. If they didn't, then we're only working with 226 horsepower, but I have to think they filled it up with premium. It's kind of funny that Mazda does this 2-tiered horsepower figure that's based on the grade of fuel that you use. No other automaker does that. Around town, this thing, you know, it feels somewhat athletic. Mazda, to most people, is still a mainstream automaker. If you asked them, they would tell you that they are semi-premium probably, or that they try to offer a more premium product than their competitors. I think that's probably how they'd put it. But to most people, Mazda is still a mainstream automaker. And to me, though, they are semi-premium. I'm always looking for value, and I think Mazda offers, right now at least, more value than any other automaker. I mean, this thing is nice. I compared it earlier to something like an Audi Q3, and anybody interested in an Audi Q3, we have BMW X2, there's the Mercedes GLA. Anybody interested in any of those vehicles, I would direct you to the CX-30 here, because you're gonna save at least $10,000 and you'll be getting a fully loaded vehicle with 250 horsepower, which I'm pretty sure is more than any of the base powertrains make in any of those European subcompact SUVs. And you're getting a product here that is definitely as nice as any of those, if not nicer. European automakers, they do build vehicles that are a cut above from an engineering standpoint, but those are their bread and butter vehicles. Those are the BMW 5 Series. That's the, say, the Audi Q7. That's the Mercedes-Benz E-Class. The subcompact offerings of the European automakers, they're nothing to write home about, unfortunately. They often share their platforms with lesser vehicles, like the Audi Q3 was built on the same platform as the Volkswagen Golf. The BMW X2 shares its platform with Mini. The subcompact offerings of the European automakers aren't quite to the caliber of, say, the mid-size sedan offerings. You're not just getting a smaller Mercedes-Benz GLE by getting the GLA. You're getting a lower caliber vehicle, and for that reason, I tend to not recommend those cars, honestly. I think something like the CX-30 is right in the money. It's small and it's limited in terms of overall utility, and for that reason, I don't want to pay over $40,000 for a vehicle like this. I'm someone who doesn't value brands too much, and I would encourage anybody watching to not value brands too much, because I guess what I'm getting at is a lot of the European automakers sell their subcompact SUVs based on the badge on the steering wheel, based on the badge at the front of the vehicle. There just isn't a lot of substance behind those vehicles when you compare prices to something like this. Because for $35,000, if you're cross-shopping it with a European luxury car, CX-30 is quite a value. Big speed bump here, we're going about 25. Ooh, that was a little rougher than most vehicles. Ooh. Definitely a little rougher. But the powertrain feels great. 250 horsepower is significantly more than you need out of a vehicle like this. I'd be content with 200, honestly. So that extra 50 horsepower really just feels like a bonus. Handling is great, just like it is on most Mazdas. I would say if you're comparing this to a mainstream subcompact SUV like a Kia Seltos, like, I don't know, a Jeep Compass, Toyota doesn't really have anything this size. So the CX-30 here is pretty compelling when you compare it to the mainstream subcompact SUVs out there. Maybe you'd pay a little bit more for this vehicle. Again, though, you're paying for a more performance-oriented turbocharged powertrain in this case. But cross-shop it with its base engine against the Kia Seltos, against the Jeep Compass, against what else? Hyundai Kona? That's a little bit smaller still. Cross-shop it against any of that, though, and you are getting a more premium experience. You're getting, design's subjective, but I think the design of this thing is pretty cool. I like it. I don't think many people would argue that Mazda's design language is ugly. Same goes for the interior. It's a really nice interior. Nicer than what you're going to get from other mainstream manufacturers, and as nice as what you're going to get from a European manufacturer. And yeah, I think that just points to the overall value that you get out of the CX-30, and frankly, that you get out of Mazda right now across the board. So on that note, that's your look at the Mazda CX-30 Turbo. I think this thing's a killer value. Thanks for watching.